Hello and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 48 and we've got a Q&A today. So first of all, thank you very much for all your questions on Instagram and via email. I've selected 5 questions, I think. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, 5 questions for today's podcast. And hopefully it's not something that I've covered before. If it is, I apologise. But yeah, hopefully if you're the one that asked the question, it helps you out. And let's get going. So question number 1, very, very common question, this one. How do I target fat on the lower abdominals? And then in brackets, jelly belly. Love that one. Really simple answer here. There is no way to specifically target that via exercise. If you're thinking of like specific exercises, you normally get people saying, oh, loads of ab work to get rid of that. It's complete nonsense. We want to eliminate body fat, and the way we eliminate body fat is by creating that energy or calorie deficit. And unfortunately, we don't have a say of where it comes from. So it might come off the lower abdominals, in this case, last for you. But yeah, it's just about persevering with your sort of dieting and continue to train and continue to build some good habits around exercise and nutrition, doing that consistently, and it'll come. It'll start to decrease, but it, like I say, it could be the last place that it comes off of. But yeah, hopefully that helps. Question number 2: is too much protein bad for us? Again, I may have covered this one in the past, but the simple answer is no. If there is nothing, if you've not got any issues with your kidneys already. So if you've got a kidney issue, get advice from a doctor, not from me as a PT. But if you are a healthy individual that's got no issues with the kidneys, then too much protein isn't bad for us. What I would say though is, if you are a person that's trying to lose body fat, like the person in the last question, it's not very common that people are overeating protein. However, be aware, it's normally more common that people are overeating the other macronutrients, fat and carbs. However, be aware of how much protein you are eating. So if you are logging it and tracking it, have a look at it. Because if you're going way over the amount you need, and that's leading you to go over calories, then eating too much protein is going to be bad for you, because it's taking you over your calorie amount. Now, as I say, that's not very common. Most people struggle to get enough protein in. But if you're really aware of your protein intake and you've made a conscious effort to increase it, there is a chance that you might be eating more than you actually need. Remember, I've spoke about this quite a few times, how to work how much you actually need. So if it should be around anywhere from, the ideal range is around 1.6 grams per kilogram in your body weight. So that's the ideal. But if you do a lot of resistance training, like high levels of resistance training, where you train, let's say, I would say 5 times a week plus, then you might need to increase that a little bit more to more towards the 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. But yeah, that's something to bear in mind. And definitely, if you've got any sort of kidney issues, speak to your doctor about that, because it's really important. Question number 3: is it true that it gets harder to lose weight the older you get? Good question. I sway on the side of yes on this one. And if we talk about straight away, people when they think of this, as you get older, your RMR or BMR starts to drop, meaning the amount of calories that you need at sort of rest starts to decrease. That is true. There is a decrease in that, but it's only minor. The main thing that happens with as you get older, things change, your lifestyle changes. So what happens is your activity levels may start to drop compared to what you used to do. Your dietary habits might change. You might be a little bit more social, going out eating more often. Sorry, my dog's down here if you can hear her snoring. She's down there, if you're watching on YouTube. Yes, so you might go out to eat out a little bit more, so your actual intake goes up a little bit more, and just life gets a little bit busier, I think, as you get older. So things, then two sides of the energy balance equation changes slightly. So, and I think that is the biggest issue for most people. There is a small decrease in BMR, but not enough to blame that for the reason. Like everybody else, the main things to focus on is get some resistance training in there, keep yourself healthy in terms of cardiovascular training, and have a look at what your intake is like, how much it's changed, and yeah, if you need a coach for that, you know where to come. Question number 4. Short episode this, isn't it? I might have to drag these last two out a little bit, flying through them. The question number 4 is, do I need to train every day to get results? This one, it's a tough one to answer with just that amount of information. It depends what you want results to be. I think if you are aiming to step on stage, like as a bodybuilder or a physique athlete, then you need to be getting towards the 5, 6, potentially 7 days a week. You probably still would have a rest day in there, but at certain times you'll be training super hard and high frequency, if you like. So yeah, sorry, let me just mute that because it's going to be annoying. So yes, I think that is probably, if you want to step on stage, then definitely you're going to be training, maybe not every day, but high amounts. Now, if your results are, you just want to get a little bit healthier and a little bit fitter, then do you have to train every day? Definitely not. And to be honest, I'd swerve training every day. I don't train every day. Most normal people don't train every day. If we're thinking of training in terms of being actually in the gym, then no, you don't have to. What I would say is some form of exercise every day, and whether that's just even a short walk, is really important, and something that I definitely do that every day. There's not a day where I just don't do anything at all. So I think that's really important. That's important to consider, but it just does depend on what you perceive to be a result. What is your result? What's your target? What's your goal? And I'll be able to give you a little bit of a better answer with that, but hopefully what I've given you there helps a little bit. So yeah, that's my answer. And then final question, how important is cardio training? I included this one because I think it's a really good question, and I think it does get neglected quite a lot now. Neglect is probably the wrong word, but and I'm guilty of this, just talking about resistance training, trying to build muscle, trying to get stronger, which is super important, but I think this still does need to be an element of cardio training. And for me, my personal opinion is that doesn't necessarily have to be in the gym. It doesn't have to be sat on a bike. It doesn't have to be going to a spin class, coming from a spin instructor. That it doesn't have to be going to a HIIT class. It just needs to be getting out there, walking. I would prefer people to get out there walking in nature, getting some fresh air, getting moving. That is cardiovascular training. Cardiovascular training is just getting the heart and lungs working. And what better way to do it than that? I would much rather do that than be in like a sweaty gym, walking on a treadmill. However, if that's something you enjoy, then don't neglect that. Keep that in your program and do that. But I think yeah, we don't want to get blindsided by just resistance training. We still want to make sure that we're working our cardiovascular system. And I mean, when we are weight training, we are training our cardiovascular system to a point. But yeah, I'm talking about long, sort of slow, steady cardiovascular training in this instance. So yeah, it's really important. I would try and get some form of that in every day if you can. Even, like I said, even if it's a 10-20 minute walk, something like that, that's so much better than doing nothing at all. Gets your steps up. And that's one of the reasons why you'll see a lot of people, PTs in particular, talk about getting your steps up. It's that activity levels. We want to get your activity levels higher, but it's just really good for general health, mental health. There's no bad that can come of it. So yeah, that would be my take on how important cardiovascular training is. Super important, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in a gym environment. And that is probably one of the shortest episodes that I've ever done. They're the 5 questions that I picked. There's a few more in there, so I'll carry over them to next time. But yeah, thank you so much for everyone that submitted a question. Thanks for listening as always. If you want to ask a question on the next podcast or the 2 episodes from now, then feel free, drop me an email, mark@coachclegg.com, or on Instagram. And yeah, thanks for listening or watching if you're on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one.